Hey everybody, it's Staff Morale Page again. For our first land navigation video, we talked about information of the map that you can find regarding the legend, the series number, as well as the installation name. For this video, we're going to focus on how to plot a point using a protractor and a grid. If you look at the bottom of the map, you have information here that is beneficial. For example, we have our grid zone identification as well as our grid square identification. For this map specifically for Fort Bragg, our grid zone is 17 Sierra and our grid square identification is Papa Uniform. For reading a map, you want to read left to right for your easting and then top to bottom for your northing. For a 6-digit grid, that will put you within 100 meters of a point. For an 8-digit grid, it will put you within 10 meters of a point. And for a 10-digit grid, that'll put you within 1 meter of a point or a target that you're going for. If we flip the map over, and I have a point labeled up here under NTA 4, you want to take your protractor and make sure it is on the correct size of the map. So as we discussed on the first video, you could see on the top left, this is a 1/50,000 map, which is this small triangle. So what you want to do for that specific location, which I already have marked by this circle, you want to figure out what that grid is. I have the grid written over here on the top. So you have 17 Sierra, which is the grid zone identification, Papa Uniform, which is the grid square identification, and then an 8-digit grid. So you have 76350232. A good way I like to plot points is breaking down the first two numbers of each grid to figure out what square I'm working with. So for 7-6, you want to look at the top of the map, or sometimes even in the middle of the map, and figure out what 7-6 is. As you see here, you have 7-4, 7-5, 7-6. So you want to be using this line right here for your easting. Now our next series of numbers is 0-2. So if you look at the highlighted numbers for your northing, you have 0-6, 5, 4, 3, 2. So you want, whatever grid you want to look for, you want to go to the bottom left of that grid square. So for example, you want 7602, which are your first two numbers of your 8-digit series. You're going to place your protractor on that left bottom grid, and you're going to slide your protractor across until you get to what point you want, or you figure out what the grid is. So if you slide the protractor over, you see it goes to 3-0 to when we hit the circle. You also want to count upwards on the right side of the protractor to figure out where that circle is. So for this intersection, we have 3-5, and then we have 3-2, making the grid 17 Sierra, Papa Uniform, 7635, 0232. If you look at the protractor, it has numbers 0 to 1000 on the bottom and 0 to 1000 on the right side. Each tick mark represents that number for the grid. The halfway point would be 0.5. So you have 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, all the way up to 10. So when we slit our protractor across, to reach that intersection, it lands halfway between 3 and 4. So that is how we got 3-5. Now, finding the intersection going up, it lands a little bit before the 0.5 tick mark, but it's still above the 3. So you could estimate whether it is 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, 3-4. My guess would be 3-2, which will put you pretty close to the intersection. Like I said before, with an 8-digit grid, it'll be within 10 meters, but because this is a road, you'll figure it out when you're actually walking on the ground. Another example of plotting point is when you get a point for land nav, which is the bottom grid right over here. So your sheet will have multiple grids that you have to find. For example, this one is 17 Sierra Papa Uniform 7540 9975. So if you were to find this, you're going to have to find 75 on your easting, which is located here, and then 99, which if you follow the numbers all the way down, it's right here. So you have 7599, which is the bottom left of this grid square. Now the other numbers that we have is 40 and 75. So you want to take your protractor again to the bottom left, slide it over to 4 for 40, and then you want to follow the numbers up on the right to 75, which is this three-way intersection on Owen LZ. You want to take a map marker, a pencil, or a pen, and mark it down, and there you go. You plotted a point.